Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It is Tuesday, March 17th, and as we do every year, we celebrate on March 17th the anniversary of the live-action Beauty and the Beast starring Emma Watson and Dan Stevens. Haven't seen Dan Stevens in a lot lately, have we? Very true fact about the film, though. Gosling was offered the part of the Beast, and he turned it down for La La Land, a decision that he regrets to this day.
I know he's on record saying that he regrets it.
It doesn't matter if he is or not. We all know the truth.
La La Land is nominated for Best Picture.
It's yes, it was. So this was also the 29th movie. Beauty and the Beast was in history to make over $1 billion. Also happens to be our 29th podcast that we've ever done for this show.
It's not our 29th podcast that we've ever done.
I put that in there to remind me that we are pre-recording this, and I do want to mention that it is not actually March 17th for us. We are recording it quite a bit earlier, and we are aware about how tense things are in Iran and the rest of Iran and the world and Iran and the U.S. So things could happen worldwide that make this podcast a very weird listen to, Tehran. So I just wanted to point that out beforehand and say that we pre-recorded this. Now, it's weird because Apple also delayed the release of Tehran quite some time because of Gaza and the ensuing conflicts there.
October 7th. In fact, season 3 was filmed in the summer of 2023.
Right, and they released it, I think, in Israel last year. And in April of 2024, that's when the distributor in Israel, I think, reached back out to Apple and was trying to persuade them to release the show like they would have otherwise. It's funny, Apple has now shelved 3 shows: The Savant, The Hunt, and this. And
yeah.
And The Hunt, I think, is the one that has just gotten a new air date.
Yeah, they did. In March 4th, I put here Apple TV shows. This is nothing different because of real-world conflict. Severance Season 2, the red carpet premiere was canceled. And then, The Savant with the Charlie Kirk thing. And then The Hunt, now it's going to be released on March 4th because of the whole entire plagiarism allegations.
And it's weird also because I compare Tehran to 24 a lot in my head, and 24 faced the same situation with 9/11, where because of the plane explosion in the first episode,
they had to cut that out.
They cut it out, or did they?
They didn't air it.
I thought they changed the date of airing.
No, I think that they cut it out when it aired on.
That must have made it a very confusing episode, if that's true.
Especially when one of the people from the plane shows up in later episodes. Yeah.
Right. So Tehran, it follows the plight of Tamar, a young Mossad hacker. Mossad is the agency that kind of is like the CIA of Israel, but even sneakier. And she's a hacker / agent who was born in Iran, but raised in Israel, and then returns to Iran. This is in the first season, on a mission to sabotage Iran's nuclear program, which has been talked about for the last however many years, how just the proliferation of nuclear arms, and also making a weapon that is actually able to explode properly and become a nuclear powerhouse in that way. It's like 24 in that it's an action, it's a serial drama, it's a crime thriller, a political thriller, an espionage thriller, and the tension that you get watching each 8-episode season is very much like the tink, 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 tink that you get in 24.
Whenever they go a commercial break at the end of the episode.
Especially in season 3, because there's a bomb that we see counting down in the last 10 minutes of this entire season is the last 10 minutes of the bomb counting down as they're trying to disable it.
Right.
So in season 1, I'm not going to do a recap or anything, but the most famous person that you got from season 1 was Navid Nagaban. And do you know who Navid Nagaban is?
No.
He is Malk Farouk from Legion.
Oh.
So
really?
When I saw him in season 1, I was like, oh, that's cool. They got this guy. But it's so weird watching a show where you don't recognize anyone. It's kind of like the first season of Money Heist was for me, where you kind of get involved in the world and just the locations and everything. And you stop thinking, oh, I'm watching just a regular TV show.
Yeah,
it actually helps out.
I was going to say, I always find it kind of more real. If the story is good enough, I always enjoy that more.
And the funny thing about the story is that it does have a lot of plot holes. And I'm talking more about just the conveniency of Tamar being able to get out of every situation. It is like watching Jack Bauer continually have ex machina moments where things come to save him, he comes to save himself.
Can you
just in the last second?
I was going to say, can you even pick the craziest thing that happened in season 1 that she was able to find her way out of?
Nope, because it's been a while. So that's the other thing. Season 1 came out, 2020? And I
Yep.
remember it was one of Apple's first shows. I remember the first scene was really, really tense. She's not even in it. Tamar's not in it, but then we have the bad guy that's in it. I'll get into that later. But season 2 comes along and Glenn Close shows up. Glenn Close is now her like sort of handler. She also works for Mossad. She's also being like a fake therapist in Iran. And so like that does take you a little bit out of the show, despite the fact of how talented and accoladed that Glenn Close's career has been.
The only other show that I think she's done a season for, and it was way more rare back in the day, was season 4 of The Shield. I think back in 2005. I remember that she was there for that season specifically, and then I don't think ever showed up in the show ever again.
You're saying, I think Glenn Close started her own TV show,
No,
right?
I'm saying that she's done TV shows ever since. I'm saying that for a season, though, for literally just those seasons, I think these are the only 2 shows she's done that, like, story arc for.
Well, I'm happy they killed her because in the second season, they killed Marjan and then they also killed off the dead weight of the love interest character, Tamar's love interest, whose name I think was like Malib or something like that. Yes, Malad. Malad was his name. And I was so happy when he blew up in that car bomb because he was weighing everything down and really slowing down. Like every episode, we would have to get 10 to 15 minutes of them talking about what they were going to do after they ran off together. And I was just like, we're watching this for you to like infiltrate this whole network and destroy everything.
Doesn't Glenn Close's character, though, Marjan, doesn't she show up in season 3? I thought she showed up as a guest.
No, she's dead. She's killed off by Faraz's. She may show up in a flashback, but like she's killed by Faraz's wife Nahib, who also wants to leave. Like everybody wants to leave Iran right now, except for the people who are in the IRGC, who are the military government that is like controlling everything.
And the main reason why Hugh Laurie wanted to do this show so much was because he was a fan.
I didn't even touch upon Hugh Laurie. This is new season now. So third season, Hugh Laurie pops in there. And having just seen The Night Manager, it's crazy how many international productions that this guy is doing. But here, instead of The Night Manager, he's presented as a good guy to start off the series.
Yeah, right. And then it was one of those things where later on,
Right.
it's like a twist, right?
Yeah, that happens later on. Dr. Peterson, he is a nuclear plant inspector, and he said that he used to work in South Africa during the creation of, I guess, the nukes that Israel ended up taking. But I think he works for the International Atomic Energy Agency, a title I had to look up, the IAEA. It's a UN affiliated watchdog, and what they do is they just go in and check to make sure like the nukes are where they need to be at that time. And I understand that with the things going on in Iran right now, the question is whether or not these people are even going to be able to get in there and check on like certain data to make sure that they see that the levels of uranium or whatever are at the output where it wouldn't be possible for them to create a nuclear weapon yet. However, Dr. Peterson does, to put a little camera up in the restricted area, and he gets caught doing that. And so the IRGC take him in and the rest of his company, and he is like cordoned off to his own specific part of the jail. And so that's where we're left with his storyline, completely separate than Tamar. Tamar is persona non grata. So one thing that is interesting about the show is that even though it is an Israeli production, Mossad is not the good guy. Mossad is like a cutthroat agency that is looking to get ahead, just like the IRGC. You can wiggle around it like who's more evil, but like both of them want to destroy each other.
So
pretty
then,
bad.
who are you?
You're absolutely like leaning towards Tamar's group, which is Mossad. But Mossad at the beginning of season 3 is trying to kill her because they're just trying to cut ties with everything that happened that was bad in season 2. So Marjan is dead, Malad is dead, and so they just want to like clear the whole air, get her out of there because they're not sure where she stands at this moment. She's been in Iran longer than she ever was supposed to be, and so they send another agent out to get her, and she does her Krav Maga, and she takes that guy out, and then she heads out and finds safety in a women's shelter.
It's a lot more action. I only ever saw the finale of this season, but it was a lot more action than I was expecting for a show like this. I thought it was
Really?
supposed to be like a slow drama or like close to something.
It can have some slow paced scenes, but as a whole, it is trying to collapse like what happens in 24 into 8 episodes, and so it does feel very condensed.
Is
in
it like
season 3? There's just a ton of plot.
I was gonna say with Tamar, every single season, her kind of being on the run, it's supposed to be a little bit like Prison Break.
Most of the
way,
time,
right?
she's working with Mossad, though. most of the time she's trying to find a way, and we have to trust at the end that she does a Mr. Robot reveal where it's like, actually, what we've been witnessing here, I've kind of constructed myself. And that's where it becomes like, you got to put yourself into a place of, okay, I'm just going to believe this, you know?
Right.
Because the idea that this late 20s lady is able to like put this all together in her head like a chess game. Speaking of chess, though, because she's on the run and Mossad is after her, she finds out because she has a mole in Mossad. She has a friend there, and her friend keeps going to the bathroom to tell her what's up by playing chess with her because they have that chat. And it reminds me of like all those other terrorist stories that we hear about, or even Happy Valley, that TV show that we watched,
Yeah.
where the dad, I think, connected through PlayStation game, even though he was on the run. I think Osama bin Laden, like he connected via video games as well.
While he was hiding, yeah.
So what used to be just like PlayStation video games is now chess on your phone. So that's how they were talking. However, her friend gets caught. We never find out what happens to her. That's why I'm talking about Mossad being a little evil. Is like we don't just see her pop up at the end of the season like, oh, she's fine. She could have been,
Killed, I imagine.
I don't know if she was killed, but she's probably stuck in like some highly secure prison for the rest of her life because and tried for like conspiracy. Anyway, so Tamar, she takes out one of the agents that's coming after her, and then she's caught by this guy named the Owl. And the Owl
The owl.
is a new guy, and he kind of is this like Mandy Patinkin's character from Homeland, Saul, from in his relationship with Carrie. At first, he wants to kill Tamar, but then after talking to her, he agrees to become her new handler. And he says to Mossad, I'll be taking responsibility for this lady. So they no longer want to kill Tamar. Part of the reason, though, that she has this leverage that she's able to convince him not to kill her is that she had broken into Marjan's house, Glenn Close's
Right.
apartment, and she had found the files that Glenn Close had been working on, Marjan had been working on, about the nuke that was being made in Iran. And so that's where this season's storyline starts to fall into place because you've got Dr. Peterson, who's been arrested. He's a nuclear scientist. And then you have this warhead that has been like transported around that they're finding out in Mossad that the Iranians are planning to put together very, very soon.
It's interesting you bring up Saul, though, from Homeland, because I actually saw, I asked ChatGPT who Faraz was like, because Faraz,
Well, Faraz is the bad guy.
I know Faraz is the bad guy, but I think that they compared him to Saul.
Just maybe an age. He's nothing like him. Like the adversarial relationship with Faraz and Tamar is more like Tom and Jerry. It is a cat and a mouse thing where Tamar is Jerry, right? It does matter like who has the gun on the other person because that happens several times where she'll blackmail him. Every once in a while, he will make her do something, but then you find out that it was her plan to do it all along. You know, like in this
So
season,
he's never outsmarted her, really.
yeah, it was she needed information from some supercomputer or from like Marjan's old computer, which had been taken in. And so he had to go in there and use his credentials. He is the head of investigations and she has his wife hostage. And she's also promising him to get him out of Iran because that's what his wife really wants.
I find it funny because the person who played him, Sean Tobe, was in the last Airbender film, and he played Uncle Iroh, which is like the most wholesome character, at least from that whole story.
That is true. Yeah.
So here it's like almost a complete opposite character.
He plays a great bad guy. Like, I think the reason they kept him on for 3 seasons is because he's so intimidating. Just the look of him, he's so serious, you know? And so, yeah, there's kind of, it's not a will they, won't they, but it's definitely a, like respect towards one another
Right.
by the 3rd season to the point where they'll like see each other and not necessarily go for the weapon because they're like, oh man, they're going to cause me a lot of problems if I do that. Yeah. So we'll talk about him a little bit more later. But Tamar follows all these leads, and she gets closer and closer and closer to the bomb. And then she finds this powerful smuggler named Ramin, who is in his like mid-30s, and he has connections to the underworld of Iran, while also getting the respect of the IRGC slash like people at the very tippy top. So he doesn't really have to worry as much about getting caught as anybody else, right?
Ramin Razmi is who you're talking
And
about.
so Tamar gets close to him, claiming to be this like sad lady named Sarah who needs goods for the woman's shelter, and he provides that. It's only until later that he finds out that she's actually playing him. She uses him for information. She and the Owl end up finding out that Peterson has been taken to this random air hangar place, and they watch as Peterson is kidnapped, not by the IRGC who already has him, but by this rebel group who hates the IRGC, because in Iran there's already enough civil war upset that like this rebel group kidnaps Peterson, and then they try to I guess Ramin decides that he wants to buy or pay for Peterson to escape.
It just sounds so much like Hugh Laurie's character, like so much that's happening to him from The Night Manager, which is the only other show that he's been in ever since All the Light We Cannot See.
I mean, having
Like,
seen it, no, because like the only thing I would compare the two is that like his identity is so up in question right now because he's been trapped in parts of the world where he shouldn't be. And in the end of season 1 of The Night Manager, he is taken by these Egyptian dudes, I think, to like Syria or something like that to like spend the rest of his days and probably kill him. And then in season 2, we find out that that didn't exactly happen. But Peterson right now, he just seems like an innocent English bloke who's been caught up in the middle of everything. He gets kidnapped, but because Tamar has this connection with Ramin, she ends up at the place that he's being held. They take out all the bad guys. Just before the IRGC comes in there, that's when Ramin realizes that Tamar isn't who she says she is. She's not Sarah, the random lady. She actually works for some agency. And so she takes Peterson, and the owl and the Peterson and Tamar are all hanging out in a safe house when Peterson reveals that he's actually evil. And he smacks Tamar in the face, and he escapes just as Faraz is breaking free from wherever he was hanging out. And
did the
they go
twist
off.
work?
So the way they explain this is Peterson says he's seen so much death and destruction by Israel because of like the nukes that they've got. He wants to create a deterrent, and so his secret plan the whole time was actually to get caught by the IRGC. This was all a ruse in order for him to actually work with the IRGC to create the nuke that they've been wanting this whole time.
So is this the first time that a villain has kind of outsmarted Tamar in the
No,
show?
not at all. In the first season, the big twist was the fact that like one of the main people that she was working with, via Mossad to infiltrate Tehran was actually a Tehran, or it was it was actually a Tehran agent.
I
So
was
like
well, it sounds like Eric.
working with Faraz, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like Eric is more successful than Faraz has ever been in terms of at least tricking
Not
Tamar.
not really. They have to speed run everything this season. So the relationship with Owl, the Mandy Patinkin thing, like he dies in the penultimate episode, and like just the empathy between the two of them, it really is a testament to the characters that they were able to pull anything from it because they've only had like 4 episodes together. But it really was sort of a father-daughter thing by then. And as for Peterson, his character, Hugh Laurie does a great job at the very beginning, making him seem sympathetic, but then he quickly has to do this completely 180, and then he has to explain himself from that angle and how he's trying to create a deterrent for Iran so that the rest of the world stops bullying them, and that's sort of believable. But at the same time, you have Ramin, who's the underground guy, right? He's
Right.
the one who has connections all over. You'd think that he'd be furious about Tamar, but no, he ends up being a CIA or part of like a connection with the CIA. So he now has replaced what is the guy from the first 2 seasons again?
Malad.
Malad? Okay. Yeah, Malad, in the fact that he's going to be like her number two. The owl, after he dies, he's absolutely the number two. And so they're running around Tamar and Ramin, and they realize that there's already a bug on the bomb that Iran is trying to make that they were able to install a long time ago. Mossad was able to install a long time ago. However, they have to do something with it. I forgot exactly what, but they ended up like having to break into some console somewhere to get into a computer to get into the security network and patch into the bomb. At the same time, Peterson is well ahead of it. He's figured out that they have done something to the bomb because he has another informant from a previous testing that he had been doing, the wife of that person.
Yeah.
That's actually the person who ends up killing the owl. So like it all connects. But Peterson watches as Tamar tells him basically where the bug is in the code.
So now he can just basically delete it,
And
right?
then Peterson deletes the bug and he's like, all right, I have the bomb here. It's ready to go. Now let me do. And then they say, shut up. we're going to take this bomb now. The IRGC is like, we don't care about you anymore. You can go back to prison and we'll send you back to England or whatever. His cover has been blown because he showed himself his true colors to Tamar.
Right.
So Mossad knows who he is. And so he can't just go home, even though that's not public information. They would just like send someone to kill him or something like that. Like he's not going to have a normal life anymore. He realizes this. He also realizes that his whole plan of like what he wanted to do with the bomb, which was like, I guess, keep it down in that bunker, was not going to happen. So the IRGC authorities at this point are saying, we're going to transport this thing. And that's where he realizes he needs to contact Mossad. And we have to be like, what? Why?
So would you say that like his plan was almost kind of like the Penguin, where if you remember the Penguin at like the later part of the
There's a lot of
seasons
twists in the Penguin, yeah.
had the bomb underneath the city, and he was just thinking that that was going to be where they kept it?
Right. So he explains his plan in the last episode because that's where it gets really interesting. He has been calling his daughter the entire time that he has been in Tehran, whether before or after he got arrested. And like we never hear from her. And the fact that he asks about her all the time makes me think that there's like a big twist coming where she's either dead or that like there's something, he doesn't have a daughter and that this, but he calls his daughter with like this cell phone that he had snuck in, and he knows that Mossad is listening, and so he tells them where he's going to be. And so Tamar, once again with Ramin now, are able to intercept that van that's taking him back to the prison, and he tells them at that point, I've created this bomb, and it has an explosive on it that's going to set it to go off in like 15 minutes. No, at like 12 o'clock. So like they have an hour to find the bomb. And the problem was he was expecting it to go off in the bunker, which would stop the radioactive effects as much as it would be as if it were on top of land. And he said basically it was a greater good argument where it was like, once the people see what they are creating in the rest of the world, then they will never try to do it again. You know, and so and Tamar at that point has to be the human in the group and be like, "Are you kidding me? You're going to kill off all these people that are in Tehran."
What is it with Hugh Laurie season finales and bombs always going off?
Yes.
I continue.
I mean, so he's not necessarily as bad a guy as we originally assumed, where he's actually wanting to create a bomb for the purposes of being used against someone. However, he did want to let it go off. So the like last minute redemption arc is a little bit of a problem.
So it didn't work for you, where he like kind of sacrifices himself,
It's just
right?
I'm still trying to figure out where the pieces land for him, but they have to end up kidnapping Faraz. And Faraz's storyline has taken a whole detour this season. At one point, it was looking like he was striking a deal with Tamar to get into Israel, and his wife believed that. But really, he wasn't. He was just trying to get the heat off his own back because in the previous season, he had been part of the security detail that had watched one of the commanders get blown up. And
Yeah.
so he had heat on him as far as people thinking he might be working for Mossad anyways. And so he has this detective who all season's been like on his back and even trying to get his wife to come out and tell him information about her husband. The wife in the previous episode, Tamar had made a promise to her to help her escape from Tehran. And so she supplied her with a passport and sent her to the same women's shelter that she had found comfort in earlier in the season.
Oh, I think I saw the previously for that. Yeah,
So
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
so Faraz really wants to talk to his wife, and Tamar rolls up and she's like, "Hey, you want to talk to your wife again? Well, get in the car. We got to go get this bomb because he's one of the few people who knows where the actual bomb location is." Which is in a van, which he then calls the van and says, "Hey, go to this random mountain where there's a cave." And so that's where ultimately all this ends up is that they're in the cave. There's a shootout going on. Eventually, Peterson and Tamar, who remember is a hacker as well as being a Swiss Army knife,
Right.
and she's been shot, so she should be like weaker, but it doesn't seem to affect her too much.
We saw her get in like so many shootouts in the like 40 minutes that this finale was.
Yeah, in 24, it's like you've seen Kiefer Sutherland like go through everything. You know?
It felt like, yeah, just plot armor.
So they get into where the bomb is in the back of the truck, and Peterson starts to disable the actual thing, and then Faraz goes out, and the guy who has been tailing him, the one who wants to like skewer him, you know, he ends up uh, putting him up to gunpoint, and that's where Faraz is forced to kill him. This isn't the first time that Faraz has had to kill one of his like secondary people who were getting too close. That happened in the previous season. How many times can he do this? He's on at the same time Tamar is letting him talk to his wife. He has kind of an interesting conversation, probably one of the best conversations of the entire series, where he makes it very clear, like in his mind, he's always thought himself the good guy. And the Iranian people are always presented as like just people,
Right.
just humans going about their days, doing their things, innocents. Well,
Civilians, yeah.
yeah, civilians. Well, the same thing goes for their government, where they are just the assholes. They're the people that everybody considers responsible for all the travesty that's occurring around them. And he hasn't always seen it that way. He's seen himself as the ledger that's like kept things stable,
Oh, so he kinda like the
and
middleman?
he doesn't want, no, not the middleman. He sees himself as one of the top guys, but just like he's supporting the system to so that they are safe, so that he's safe, so that his wife's safe. He doesn't really feel the need to ever leave. He doesn't want to leave. And so that's what his wife is trying to communicate to him. And he's like, but I love you. How can you ask me to do this? And it's kind of left at an impasse where she just hears the shootout happen. And then he goes back into the van now that he has a gun, and he's like, get out. Have you done it yet? And Peterson forces him to let Tamar go.
Right.
So Tamar gets out of there, and then Peterson and him have this last minute chat, which is another great moment in the series where Peterson's sort of explaining his point of view and Faraz is explaining his point of view. And that's where it dawns on Faraz that the bomb hasn't been disabled, that he hasn't been working to disable the bomb. And at that point, I'm like, that's insane, because Tamar could have been given 30 minutes chance to escape and she would still be in the proximity of the radiation. She'd be dead.
Right, because the bomb, yeah, like, while this is going on, you can just see the timer in the background, right?
Everything is happening at the same time. The IRGC is heading towards the cave because they realize something crazy is happening. Mossad is looking to blow up the nuke in Tehran because they're like, I'd rather it happen here than anywhere else. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm talking about Mossad being sketchy as an agency as itself. And Tamar is really the only one, and I guess Peterson, with a heart, because what they choose to do is blow up the incendiary device, or the part that's supposed to blow up the nuke that caused the chemical reaction,
Right.
but it ends up just being a regular bomb. So it takes out a ton of the IRGC guys. It takes out Peterson. And it also takes out Faraz, which
Right.
I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting them to kill off the main villain of this series, but it worked. I thought it was a very like well done death for this guy. He definitely deserved after all of this, and his wife ends up being free. So it's sort of a feel good moment.
Well, it makes you wonder, especially because it's been renewed for season 4, that, like, where do they go with it now that the big bad is
Well,
gone?
season 3 had new writers anyways.
Right. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so like I guess that they already know what they're doing. So I'll just trust them on that. Tamar, obviously, she runs off. She has a backpack. From the backpack, she takes out the nuke, the actual core of the nuke. That's the thing that they had been working on so much in the back of the van, was so that this was just a normal explosion. It wasn't a nuclear explosion. And so it only affected that mountain area. So it was still bad, but not nearly as bad as it had to be. And so she takes it out of her backpack, and then Ramin sees it, and they're like, "Oh, great, we got the nuke." And then they start running out of the forest or the desert as the helicopters or whatever, the drones are like chasing them, you know?
Yeah,
And so
you get the upward
that's
shot.
the Prison
Yeah.
Break connection. If you go to like season 1, that's where they're running away as danger follows them, pursues them. A lot of pros for the season, just like every season. They have tons of languages. I like how they interweave the Hebrew with the Farsi with the English, and they just do it. All these
Yeah,
characters
those aren't
way better
Mandarin.
than anybody speaks English in Squid Game. The locations, they shoot in Athens.
Athens, Greece, and they're able to make it look exactly like Tehran,
It's
right?
got the pistache of like of an Apple TV show, even though it wasn't created by them, because it feels fancy. If Apple thought this was not up to par for us, they could have redone it. But I think part of it is the fact that they cast so well, part because they filmed with these different languages
Yeah.
within it, and then finally because of the location is just you can't tell the difference. But I've never been to Tehran, so I wouldn't know what I was looking for. Sarah Tamar in this episode is the best part of the show, has always been. She's like Tokyo from Money
Money
Heist
Heist, yeah.
if Tokyo was sane. You
It
realize how much more of a threat that is, right?
yeah, no, it'd be scarier because she actually, like, there's a
She's
method to
not
her
crazy.
madness,
She
yeah.
can actually plot stuff out, but at the same time, she's just always she's a badass. And so killing off her, that would have like PTSD'd most characters from every TV show if their love life had just destroyed in one
Right.
episode, And for her, it was like, okay, well, moving on. Shout out to the old guys because you got the owl who was played by a 78-year-old dude,
Yeah.
and Faraz who's 68 years old, and they carry the show as they're great. And
Well,
so
yeah, I mean, again, for us, probably not anymore. Hugh Laurie, I think, is probably
neither they both died in this season.
yeah.
I'm saying that for this season, season 3, they were great, but they were action heroes at 78 and 68. Mandy Patinkin only wishes he's like I think 5 years younger than I think he's in his like 73 or
Well,
something.
like I was saying, Hugh Laurie is 66, so
Right, but, like, he wasn't doing the action stuff. Like,
okay.
the owl literally went off or out in a field of gunfire. It was pretty cool, and then, yeah, the cons of the show, at one point, they had put Faraz this was when Tamar and the owl had made a deal with Faraz to get him out of Iran, and they stuck him in this ramshackle shack with, like, one zip tie around his hands,
Mhm.
and everybody online, because I could not believe it myself, was, like, just like, "What are you doing? Like, one zip tie?" Like, that
Like, he's not gonna be able to make his way out of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, he wouldn't be able to just get his way out of that shack that wasn't even, like, fully they put one lock on it, and he had one zip tie behind his ba they could have at least, like, tied him up just a little bit more. It was crazy. He was out of there in 2 seconds. Ramin, the fact that he finds out that Tamar is, Mossad isn't angry at all that she killed one of his best friends, and then also is, like, represents himself as part of the CIA while having still connections everywhere in the city, and yet no one tries to reach out to him like, "Hey, man, where are you? Like, you have tons of work to be doing right now." Well, he suddenly becomes Tamar's like second in hand.
Mhm.
That was weird. All the ex machina moments. Peterson's plan, if you really think about it, is pretty wonky because like he wanted to get caught, he wanted to set off this bomb because he thought that that was going to automatically make the rest of the world turn on Iran or something. Very curious. And then I still don't know what's going on with his daughter. Like
Do you
they
think you're
he
ever gonna
at the
get an
very
answer,
end he
though?
says, "Please explain to my daughter what happened." So we're just led to believe that she was actually receiving these messages, but she never checked her phone.
But do you think that we're ever actually going to figure out, though? Because with his story
No,
arc being
that's what I mean
done
by, like, it's
yeah.
just kind of a con because I think they just left that out. Faraz, I said already, he killed all his colleagues, so it's not like anybody's really gonna know what happened. I do wanna throw out a mention, this isn't a con or anything, but, like, in Iran, apparently, some of the military, they wear these giant billed hats, like, they're normal baseball caps, but they have huge bills like Goofy from Disneyland,
Yeah.
when you with the big
Yeah.
they look so goofy, but, like, I guess these guys are really like, you don't wanna mess with them, but they're so funny looking,
I did not expect you to compare, that those
and
Iranian
the last
people.
thing I could say is I did cringe when Tamar took the bomb out of her backpack and was just holding it in her hand. It's this orb that might as well be glowing because it's filled with, like, possible radiation. I just was thinking, like, how many years did you just take off your life? I guess if it's stable, then you can handle it, but,
I
like,
would imagine
it
it would be hot
feels
too, though, right? Wouldn't
no,
it?
like, I think it'd be inert to the point, but I think, like, actual just, like, the elements radioactively would be still like, their isotopes would be still fucking you up at the same time, so I don't know why she's gotta put that somewhere safe really, really soon. Ultimate rating from me is probably an 8 out of 10 for this season.
And what did you think, compared to the other 2 seasons? Because like you said,
Season 2 sucked.
it was
Season 2 is forgettable.
what about season 1?
Season 1's really or pretty good. It's not on the level well, I guess season 1 or season 3, whichever is your favorite, one of those is.
I was interested because they've had the same director for every single episode. They
Even in
got him
season
back.
3?
Yeah, even in season 3, Daniel Sirkin, but as you stated, Mashe Zonder and Omri Shinar, who are also credited for creating the series, and I think also, like, still had their hands in season 3, did not write it this time, so I was wondering if there was any differences that you could tell just, like, starkly between, all 3.
Nope. Not really. It moves at a pace where you're just like usually in a type of show where a character keeps on getting away by the skin of their teeth, you would get exhausted from it. But because of her character, you're rooting for her no matter what, and it's just relentless, and you always feel the tension, despite the fact it just doesn't get old, which is very curious. Like I don't even understand it myself, like why it doesn't feel like I shouldn't be Your body should just get used to it. Yeah.
Season 3 has actually been the most critically acclaimed season. It even has a higher Rotten Tomato score with 94% than season 2 or season 1.
Because Malad's dead. Malad was my least favorite character. He brought the show so down. Like, he was introduced in season 1 as another hacker, who I understand how they have like that connection because they're both in the same mindset. But he was so sappy. He would just sit there and be like, "I want to go run off with you," and it's like, we get it, Malad. Maybe it's season 5.
The New York Times said that Tamar, they agreed with you. They said that she was the best part of the series because she gives a sympathetic vulnerability to the character.
She's super talented. Again, I read that she did Krav Maga in setup for this. She obviously speaks 3 languages.
She ever since Tehran, which has been 2020, has been the lead role or series regular in 6 shows, including this.
But in Israeli shows,
right? But
she hasn't made the leap into America.
Still, and then with Hugh Laurie, like I said, he was such a big fan of the series. I think he really liked season 2 so much because he kept on bringing up how great Glenn Close was in it, that when his agent asked what he wanted to do, he was like, "Get me on this TV show," and he was able to do so.
What's nuts is he's also a huge fan of The Night Manager. Like, he was the reason part of why Richard Roper came back and stuff like that. So my thing was like, what if midway through the season when you really didn't know anything, I was like, what if he's the same character? What if somehow this is like the in-between of The Night Manager? Because he is world traveling, like you said, and that would be just the most crazy crossover that would never actually happen.
I did want to ask, because it seems like every single season, even though I know season 4 is being filmed right now, is going to have a major actor. I have a list here, and I want to see if you could give your thoughts on who you think if they would work in season 4 as being like the villain or whatever. So Helen Mirren was my first one. I know you liked her in Mobland. In
Feels like she's done that role too much, though.
Okay, so, all right. Daniel Sirkin did episode 5 and 6 of Mobland, so that's basically the reason she was there. Bobby Cannavale, he has range. He's done a lot of different TV shows kind of like it.
Yeah, but I feel like he would need to speak a different language. He looks too much like some of the characters. I'm thinking of his character from Mr. Robot with the mustache. There are so many mustached people in this show where it's like, if he's just going to be speaking English, it's going to be kind of odd.
What about Shore Agdashlu? That's the Expanse lady, the old lady from The Penguin also.
Yeah, no, she would fit in.
And then
I think is she Iranian?
I don't think so.
I think she's Indian.
On that. Yeah, no, I think she is too. No, she's Iranian and American.
She's Iranian?
Yeah,
no, perfect. Yeah, cast her. Get her in there.
And then my last one was Riz Ahmed from The Night Of. Would he work?
I'd be kind of upset if I saw him in it. I'd be like, nah, get out of here, Riz. I know he's British. He's British.
Yeah, no, he is. And the last 2 comparisons that we had that we didn't really bring up, A House of Dynamite. Like, that was the Netflix movie that came out last year about kind of like the
don't remember it well enough.
World. Okay, and then The Agency also.
The Agent. Oh yeah, no, for sure. So like, as an espionage thriller, The Agency was slower paced as far as like, he doesn't run around shooting people every episode.
Right, Michael Fassbender.
Tamar is like on the loose anytime she should be caught. So if you didn't like The Agency because it was boring, check out Tehran. And I know there was been again the like really sad story about like one of the show's producers or whatever died for the season 4
back in February. Yeah, while they were filming it.
Right. And so but I don't think that had any impact on the actual show's writing or anything like that. Or was the cause of the show?
That didn't. How the Gaza war turns out, I know Daniel Sirkin says that will play a
They said that they had to do rewrites for season 4 because of how similar it ended up being. That's got to suck. No,
major rewrites.
It is incredible that they're able to create a show that I feel like if anybody hears Israeli show that is from the point of view of an agent going into Tehran and doing stuff, people are just going to say it's propaganda. But while you're watching it, it's really like they do not present Mossad in a nice way. And Tamar is like the main character of the show. You could just call it the Tamar show. Like she's representative of the ethics here, and she is not one way or the other. Her heart is in Iran, like she says numerous times in the show. Anyways, so thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.